This is the Real Love Talk podcast, where we show you how God's love and self-love can help you get to your desired destination. If a God-designed marriage is your goal, then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Shenique Luke.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Real Love Talk podcast. I'm your host, Shenique Luke, and welcome to another episode. So, today is going to be a little different. I don't even know why you guys expect the same thing from me at this point, because you're going to get this word, you're going to get some good advice, and you're going to get some application and how to apply it to your life, right? So, recently, I made an announcement that I denounced my sorority. All right. Now, I will be completely honest with you. It was life-changing. It shook up my world. But the most important part that it allowed God to do was come in and allow me to really reflect on the things that I was doing, the relationships that I was in and still are currently in. But really just most importantly, it gave me an opportunity to reflect. And so here I am coming back to you with all of my reflections. And I'll be honest. It was hard for me to even process this and digest it. But I felt like what I learned from it was really beneficial, and I just want to share it with you. I'm all about the jokes, but at the end of the day, I want you to be able to take what I'm sharing with you, process it, and then apply it to your life, right? So today's episode is called Letting Go of Traditions. So of course, here I am. I'm this woman. I've been in this organization for years, and now I am disconnecting from it. That is life-changing. What do we do when it's time to disconnect from traditional ways, traditional thoughts, habits, the things that we've held on to for many years, right? So the first thing that really began to allow me to reflect on this particular topic was after I came out of the organization. It was like, man, well, if I thought this about this thing, was I wrong about XYZ? Was I wrong about this type of situation? Like it really began to transform the way that I thought in general about just attaching myself to things. When I say things, I mean organizations, groups, friendships, relationships, habits, thoughts. It was as if everything that I knew to be true somehow it was false. And what I learned was God was trying to show me that it was time to unlearn the thoughts and the things that I had known my whole life. And man, can I be honest? I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, God. Like, this is hard because imagine desiring to be in an organization your whole life and now you're making the decision to walk away from it. That's really hard to do. And now you're telling me that even the thought of traditions, the thought of habits that I've known for 41 years is not true? Okay. So God told me, plain as day, the only thing that I need you to be attached to is me. Nothing else. You don't need anything else but me. Wait a minute, God, because I got family. I got this membership. I got this thing that I've been doing every single day, this thing that I've been doing every single month. And now you're telling me to let go of all of it and just hold to you. And that's the thing. That's the thing about God. The only thing that he asks you to do once you receive him as your savior is just attach yourself to me. Could it be that we have began to tie ourselves to traditions, groups, and even habits that mean absolutely nothing to God? Man, that shook up my entire world. Because the biggest thing that I learned with denouncing the organization was that it wasn't of God. right? Here I've been told that you're in this Christian organization. You want to live this life as a Christian, but then you come to find out when God speaks to you that this has nothing to do with him. That was really hard for me to process. And so I want to share a couple of things with you. Could it be that we have allowed these things to become a part of our identity, and now we're holding on to them because this is who we are? So in Mark 7:13, and I'm reading from the easy reading version, it says, "So you are teaching that it is not important to do what God said. You think it is more important to follow those traditions you have, which you pass on to others, and you do many things like that." So could it be that we found our identity in marriage, in our salary, in memberships, in jobs, even in colleges? And God is saying it is okay to just be connected to me. You see, what's interesting for me is that I wanted and I longed for a tradition. I was born in the Bahamas and I moved to the US when I was 5 years old. So I have a really large family, but I don't know a lot of people in my family because I just never went back to the Bahamas for a large majority of my childhood. And so here, I don't have a lot of family members. I have a few aunts, and my siblings and my parents are here. So this is like a really small portion of my family that I've known for the majority of my life. And it made me feel like I lacked tradition. And even to this day, I still kind of struggle with the things that I know about my past and my history. And, that was the thing. I'm going to create these traditions. And even when it comes to being in the US, a lot of the things that I took ownership of and took hold to were not really from the Bahamian culture, right? So you can call me Americanized. And so I have taken kind of this thing into my responsibility that I'm going to create these traditions for myself. Okay, I live in Georgia. I've been in Georgia since I was 5 years old. So a lot of the things that I believe may come from more of a Southern traditional mindset, right? So there was this thirst that I had for tradition. Okay, I don't have my family members here. I wanted my daughter, I wanted to become a part of this sorority so that my daughter could be in it and her daughters could be in it. I wanted to create these traditions for holidays and that sort of thing because I did not have it. So there was a part of me that felt like I didn't have an identity because I didn't have these traditions. I feel like it is what we lack the most that we desire the most. But God said very clearly to me, when you attach yourself to me, you lack nothing. And so we as a society, we have to be accepted. We want to belong. We want love. And even when we talk about the Love Prep Academy and the Real Love Talk podcast, that's why it's so important for me, for us to kind of be more open to the things and the woes and the struggles of relationship, is because at the end of the day, we all go through it. We struggle through it. We move through it, but that's what's important. That I may be experiencing it one way, you may be experiencing it another, but we just respect each other's journey, right? So when we talk about relationship, it says, you belong. I accept you. And we all desire that one thing, to be accepted. When you look at the definition for relationship, it states, the definition of relationship is the state of being connected. But without these connections, we feel inadequate. But that is the farthest thing from the truth. You have value in just who you are. It's not about how much money you make. It's not about the college you went to. It's not about the organization that you're in. It's not about if you're married or single. We find value in just being a part of the wives club. I mean, even some of us find value in being single. We look down on people who are married. We look down on people who have children because we want to have our group. I think about the football fan, and it's always interesting to me because he or she will go out of their way to let you know who their team is. And that's going to be, they're going to buy the best tickets. They're probably going to be season ticket holders. They're going to wear their paraphernalia. He's at every event. He's at every playoff game. He knows the players. He knows the stats. And it even goes as deep as, based on whoever that team is, they have a rival. They hate that team. They talk trash about that team. If you root for that other team, you're getting insults. You know what I mean? Think about how deep this goes. Even if we talk about sororities and fraternities, if you're in, depending on the school that you go to, you could be beefing with a totally different organization just because of, or I should say, you could be beefing with a person just because of their affiliation with that particular group. So could it be that these things that we've tied ourselves to, I wonder what that football fan, like when they go home and they're not attached to that team, what if that team completely dissolved tomorrow? Would that person have an identity? Could it be that these are just things that we use as a distraction to truly keep us from getting to know who we are? Because I'm going to be honest, after I denounced this organization, I was no longer known as, so, most of you know, I was a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha. I was no longer known as an AKA. I was no longer known as the Ks. I was no longer attached to this group, okay? Even if you go as far as the chapter. So now I have to just be Shenique. I just have to be who God created me to be. Now, in this particular instance, there were struggles with disconnecting from the group, but think about how many of us have really made an identity, even out of being a wife, out of being a mother, out of being a member at a church. Like, if that particular thing went away tomorrow, who would you be? Who are you without it? I'm going to be 100% transparent with you that when it was time when God said, okay, you're not going to be a part of this thing anymore. And I looked at the name tag, and now that identity was no longer a part of who I was. It got hard. It was a challenge to really say, who am I? If I have taken, this thing as a part of my identity, and now this thing is gone, and now I have to look in the mirror and really say, am I kind? Am I loving? Like, who do I want to show up as authentically and 100%, no matter what happens tomorrow, no matter if something is taken away from me? I mean, even in death, if I no longer have this person as a parent, as a friend, and it has become solely a part of my identity, that is such a hard pill to swallow. I think that when God said to me, the only thing that I want you to be attached to is me, I'll be honest, it was life-changing. I mean, a lot of you follow this podcast because you want relationship advice. And could it be that you hold more value in being a wife than just being yourself? That's a tough pill that is hard to swallow. And I want to tell you that you have value in just being you. I mean, and even for me as an immigrant, like, I've wanted these traditions so bad. I wanted to be a certain type of wife. I wanted to be a certain type of mother. But now, I'll be honest, with everything going on in the world when it comes to racial issues, when it comes to, different traditions that we realized it wasn't founded on anything of value, or even those traditions that were founded on racial, like from a racist context. That is hurtful. It breaks your heart because you realize, like, I can't continue this thing. If I bring something into my home that was created from a racist context, and now I'm raising my children in that, I can't do that. We all manage our homes the best way that we believe possible, right? So there's no judgment here. This is a safe space. But for me, in the last couple of years, once I really began to understand the root of certain holidays, certain beliefs, certain things that I've lived my whole entire life. I'm 42 years old. So you're talking about something that I've done, say, for 25, 30 years, 35 years. And now here we are as a wife, as a mother, and I'm making the decision to move away from it. It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to let go of something that brought me joy when I was a child, that I one day look forward to creating memories and joys with my children with. And now here I am, I have to separate from it. Making the decision to move away from a sorority that I dreamed of being in my whole entire life, okay? And then letting go of it because I want to honor God, because that was more important. It's hard to do. So here we are, and now we have to make the decision that maybe this tradition was not rooted and developed in something that was best for us. I'm not going to pass down something to my child that is harmful overall. So now I want to share with you just a couple of steps on how to rid yourself of traditions. And I know, especially as Black people, it is hard to let go of certain things. Even now, we're talking about eating better. And this is soul food. And we pride ourselves on the food that we cook being for the soul. Not only does it bring us together on Sundays, I mean, even sometimes Saturday mornings, but Sundays after church, right? We get together and we have this food. And now we have determined and found out that maybe some of this food is not good for our body. So I want to share with you just a few steps. Actually, I have 4. I wrote down 3, but I actually have 4 because I feel like it's really important for us to move through the root of some of these things. So I want to share with you a few steps on how to rid yourself of unhealthy or unproductive traditions. So, of course, first thing we're going to do is we're going to seek God. What does the Bible say? So for me, when it came time to make a decision to step out of an organization, I really had to go back to what God said about it, right? So what's important is we're not doing things based on what the people around us say, the things that we see in society, because nowadays common sense is not so common. So we may see someone doing something, or it may make sense to a group of people, but could it be that this is just a lie that has been passed on? So what does the Bible say about your tradition? Does it even exist? Does it even say anything in there about it? So for me, I had to look at what was a covenant. I had become a part of a covenant that had nothing to do with God. And in the beginning, it was sold to me that it was of God. So the first step is I always go back to the Bible. What does the scripture say? Number 2, what is the motive? Are you doing this because you just want value? You feel like this thing is going to bring you clout, it's going to give you status, it's going to make you look good because of what someone else thinks? It's not even about, you know how many times I've had conversations with people and they don't even want to do a thing? Let's talk about marriage. Are you just getting married because your mom or dad said you should get married and you have no desire for it? And I do believe that some people are called to be single. And yes, this is a full-blown marriage relationship, all things love platform. But could it be that you're just doing something to please someone else? The best thing that could have ever happened to me is to have been freed from the thoughts of people. And I still struggle with it. So you're not even talking about someone who's 100% free from this thing. I'm moving through it. But when you look in the mirror, I always like to say, when you lay down at night and it's just you and your thoughts, what is the root? What is the motive? Why are you doing this thing? Do you even care? If that thing went away tomorrow, where would that leave you? Would you be completely devastated and feeling like there's no future, that your life is over? Then I think it's problematic, because you have more value than a thing. And that is it. Okay. So the third thing, and I'm going to I'm going to go through the steps, but the third thing is to cut ties immediately. So if you find yourself being, and I mean, for lack of better words, obsessed about something that if it goes, and I think that's the biggest thing. If it goes away tomorrow, where does that leave you? If you find yourself connected to something, and of course, like I said, you go to the word and now you're seeing, okay, this has nothing to do with the word of God. This no longer serves me. I'm struggling with it. How do I cut ties? What happens when you go to work tomorrow and they lay you off? You have your LinkedIn with the name on it. You have friendships that are only because of where you work. And now this thing is done. I mean, you've even heard of people like committing suicide because they lost their job, because their identity has been, you only hang out with your coworkers. You only talk about your job. You spend time, you're always at work, and now it's gone. I can understand how that can be life-changing and devastating, but it's really important to understand, like, why was this thing so important to you? Is it because, you work for this big name company and you feel like without it, you're not valuable, that without it, you're not as worthy, without it, you mean nothing? Because a lot of us feel that way. And that is the farthest thing from the truth. If tomorrow your husband or wife decides to get a divorce, and now you feel like you have no identity because you're no longer a wife, because now you'll be X'd out of the wife group, because you'll no longer have access to whatever these sorts of things, or the home, because now your home is gone because you're divorced and your family is, no longer together. I'm telling you today that without a job, without a marriage, if your children decide to go across the country, without your children, without a membership in that organization, that you are still valuable and God still sees you as being the best thing that He has ever created. Was that hard for you to even process? Because society says you have to have the best job. You have to have you have to make the most money. You have to drive the best car. You have to have 2.5 kids and a dog, white picket fence, and have this house, this home. And if you don't have those things, you mean nothing. Could you imagine if all of our lives looked like everything that I just said? How boring would that be? There would be no room for growth. There would be no room for development. Why do you need goals if you have everything? There would be no challenges. There would be nothing to overcome. And if you have nothing to overcome, then why do you need God? You would basically just be calling yourself God, to be honest. So I'm saying, if you are struggling with validation, with belonging, I'm telling you to hold and take a hold and don't let go to Jesus Christ. You know, sometimes we have this, and we just had a conversation about it. There's this hole. You want to feel complete. You want to feel like you need you need something. Something's missing in your life. I'm working hard for this thing. And the only way that you will be able to fill that hole is through your relationship with Jesus Christ. The only way that you will even be able to get the marriage that you're praying for is through Jesus Christ. Even when it comes to money, I could sit here. I've had jobs with big firms and I've made money and that sort of thing. And even when I think about my husband and my daughter, because I talk about marriage and kind of praying for these things, right? So I'm not even going to sit here and act like I don't value my husband and I don't value my child, because our platform is for women who desire marriage and desire family, right? But there was a point where I had a husband and I had a child and I still felt empty on the inside. So what I'm telling you is, even though you're praying for these things, you could get them tomorrow and you would still feel empty if you don't have this part, your heart in order, if you don't have your, you know, that inner thing. And I'll be honest, I don't even know what it's called. Like at this moment, I'm lost for words because, and I don't even want to tell you like what the church says, because I want it to be like very, I just want to be honest and transparent and let you know that I know when it feels like you have a void within yourself. And I'm telling you that I have experienced that as a single person, and I've also experienced that as a wife. And my husband can't give it to me. My daughter can't give it to me. My job can't give it to me. This podcast can't give it to me. But I only have that void filled through my relationship and from the love of Christ. So that's why it's so important. And I'm learning this too, right? To only find identity, love, fulfillment, wholeness through the love of Christ, your relationship with Him. That's the only way that you're going to get to that place. And I'm not telling you to cancel all your goals, cancel your memberships. I'm not telling you quit your job. I'm not telling you any of those things. I'm just saying that those things will never fill that void. See, the problem with the traditions is that you maximize the importance of a connection, a membership, a ritual, a habit that means absolutely nothing to God, but will minimize the things that are of God. Small things, and I say, and this is quote unquote, because the small things are really the big things. I'm talking about giving, being kind to your waiter or your waitress, or just how you speak to someone, walking in love, you know, being grateful every single day. Some of the things that I'm trying to move through right now is just waking up with a heart of gratefulness. I have a roof over my head. I have a vehicle. I have a job. I mean, even just complaining about, you know, the things I have to do as a mom when I actually prayed for a child. Could it be that we've allowed our blessings to become burdens? And guess what? That is not of God. That is not the place that He wants you to be in. So right now, I want to challenge you to really reflect. What if you lost everything tomorrow? Would your identity go out the door with those things? Like, God has so much more for you where you could literally just be. And you show up as this joyful, loving, kind, warm person. I mean, even that job may have changed you or shifted you into something that you were never created to be. You're more irritable. You're not getting any sleep because you're working long hours. You're worried about the next promotion because you're in this competitive environment. And I don't even have anything against competition and being better in life, but you know what I mean. So really begin to reflect on the things in your life. I'll be honest. The place that I was at in that organization, it was not making me a better person. It was not promoting me, and it wasn't it wasn't pushing me closer to Christ. So take a look at the things in your life and really begin to reflect and ask yourself, does this define who I am? Because your relationship with Christ should define you. Is this create my identity? And I think most importantly, the biggest thing is, if I lost it tomorrow, where would I be? Would you still be okay with all of the blessings and all of the things that you have in your life? Is God enough for you? Is your identity in Him good enough? So I want to challenge you today to really reflect on the traditions that you really hold to and high, that you maximize in your life, that you make a priority in your life. And maybe just begin to shift those things to where you begin to put God at the head of your life, and you're making God more of a priority than you make those other things. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode today. I know that the thing about it is, we're never going to be perfect. We're never going to get it like 100% right. But the most important thing is that every day we try and we strive. Being a wife does not define you. Being single does not define you. Being a part of a large corporation doesn't define you. Being a part of a small organization does not define you. You are so much bigger by just being a child of God. So I just want to encourage you. Just take those steps every single day. Reflect. Seek God. What's your motive? Why are you doing this thing? And most importantly, be okay with just being you. It's the most beautiful thing that you have. And guess what? Nobody else has it. It's just you. So I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope this was beneficial for you. Remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. I want to hear your feedback. Is this helpful for you? Does this help you to move through the things that you've been struggling through? And what do you want to hear from me? I appreciate your time today, and I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Real Love Talk Podcast. And make sure to follow Shenique on Instagram at SheniqueLuke_ for more advice and tips. Be sure to join us next Friday for another exciting episode.